Welcome to the picturesque city of Newport, Rhode Island, for the departure of the Volvo Ocean Race Leg 9 to Cardiff in Wales. It's been an action-packed stopover. Teams and fans have seen 4 seasons in 1 week, from light and drifty with rain and cold to a breezy foam-up and glorious sunshine. Tens of thousands of fans have packed the race village with something for everybody. Newport has pioneered guidelines for event sustainability, which the race has used as a template for all of their stopovers. Once again this edition, they've pushed the boundaries with their exploration zone. Thousands of kids have learnt about plastic pollution, the marine environment, and how to change our behaviour to eliminate single-use plastic. Having crossed the equator for the final time from Itajaí, Brazil to Newport on leg 8, and a nail-biting finish, let's take a look back at how the boats got here.
First 8 to 9 days will be a big tactical game.
And then we turn left, just past Bermuda, and then we're in the hands of the weather gods.
Just before you get into Newport, you get quite foggy conditions, so it's a crazy leg.
For us from Mafre, we have to step up again to try to win this leg.
There's still a lot to go for and to win and to earn.
You're always looking at the top, you never look behind.
It's about managing the pressure.
We want nothing more than to win and do our home stopover.
5,700 nautical miles. It's go for the entire fleet.
Fleet's pretty close to each other, racing east.
Nice to be back on board and racing again. Upwind, slog.
We are really close.
Everyone else is back there.
Mapfre. We have to keep focused if we want to win this leg.
I think it would be a good fight until Newport.
Went through a fleet of oil rigs.
I have a feeling it's for nature, it's not that cool. It's safe to sail around boats with 50-foot flames shooting out the back? Probably not. It's the Volvo Ocean Race. That's what we do.
Continuous onslaught of attacking with these other boats. Yeah, it was a 4-hour frenzy.
If you enjoy lack of sleep, then there's a high benefit in being this close to boats.
J'adore la Volvo.
Couldn't really get much difference between last leg and this leg. We're on deck in shorts and t-shirt, the sun's out, but the racing was just as intense. I quite like it actually.
Ourselves and turn the tide. We're at the front end of the fleet.
The ups and downs play on your mind a bit.
You can't really get your head too wrapped up in it.
That's the cool thing of this sport, right, is that motivate yourself. Even when you feel tired, the reward is always good.
Just amazing experience to be able to do the round the world on a sailing boat with a really, really good group of people. We are really friends.
Hey, Brad. Good morning, sweetie. I didn't mean to touch your...
Oh, did he do that to you too?
As we move from the southern hemisphere into the more sensible hemisphere.
I see a really annoying blue boat catching us, a really annoying red boat, and an even more annoying yellow boat who were like 20 miles behind, so they've had a blinder.
It looks like there's a bit of a shutdown outside of Newport.
The bungee between the front and back will stretch.
We're changing sails now.
This is into my overtime.
Just escaped the doldrums. We're now on the trades and we're making good ground.
A good night for Team Brunel. We run into the lead. Ow. You want to put this microphone on? No.
No, not on the side. Oh my god, Abby, stop!
Yeah, well, I guess that really got out of hand.
All the action in this race is going to happen quite quickly at the end.
Now we're sitting in 5th or 6th, but if we can get 4th, I think we'll be happy. Anything we can salvage is got to be good.
Chasing Brunel.
Yeah, it seems like the boat's behind it, it's slowly gaining.
Very stressful.
Keep pushing, catch up.
And finger cross.
We've just lost our podium spot.
We are consistent. We lost 12 miles to everybody. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Keep up the good work.
I'm gutted. Why do the final miles have to always be so bloody difficult?
It's all about the last 24 hours. Everyone knows that. Peak too early, you're going to get stuck on the way into Newport.
Going into the last battle.
We just came out of 35 knots into the trough of no wind.
The 24 hours ago we were 5th and suddenly we here on the 5th go Mafre.
Fantastic comeback from Mafre again.
We were 1st and now we are 4th.
Good leg, eh?
That incredible win from Mafre sees them retake the leaderboard with 53 points. Dongfeng Race Team in 2nd on 50, Team Brunel in 3rd on 42. Team Axo Nobel hunting hard on 36 points, with Vestas 11th Hour Racing, Team Sung Hunkai Scallywag and Turn the Tide on Plastic rounding out the leaderboard. With the points so tight at the top of the leaderboard, the skippers had plenty on their minds. Let's hear from them directly for this double points leg.
I think it's always good to be in the lead and just shows that things are being done good. Of course, it's tough and it's more and more difficult every leg because everyone is much more even. And I think, I don't know, we of course, we didn't win the last leg as we wish, but we take it anyway. And of course, you know, we analyze, and I think, you know, we shouldn't be, you know, thinking we are not doing the things right to be able to win the next one. So, you know, we will start strong and push hard to win the next leg.
We have no choice if we want to stay ahead. Brunel is doing a fantastic comeback also, and I know Bo is a good finisher from the last race. So now we have no choice, we have to beat them, but of course it's difficult, and it's not only about Mafre and Brunel. As Xabi said, the fleet is very even, and everybody is doing a good job now and good speed, and it's much more complicated to be ahead, and so it's going to be a big challenge, but we are ready for that, and of course we are going to fight.
I think our objective is quite obvious. We have to beat the 2 red buses. If not, then there's no chance for an overall win for us. So that's the first objective, and of course it will be nice to be first in there 6th and 7th, because then it will be really game on for the last 2 legs. I think we made huge steps. I think everybody probably agrees. At the beginning we weren't that good. I think from Hong Kong going to Auckland, it was the first time actually that we started becoming happy as a team. We had a horrible result, but that's another thing. That's again how sailing goes. But I think just basically from Auckland till here, we sailed excellent. And it's just one of the things as well, when you sail fast, you sail smarter as well, because everything that you do, you can probably, even when you make a mistake, you can still cover it up with speed.
Everyone in the team is unbelievable hungry to get onto that podium, and I think Brunel has the fear that they can only lose it, right? So I'd rather be in my spot at the moment and keep fighting hard and give everything we can, and that's what makes us proud in the past.
Well, America put on a fantastic show. The crowds came out in force with everything from polo ponies to the local Narragansett tribe. I can tell you there was emotion everywhere. Crucial times for the teams, double points, transatlantic crossing. Well done to Sail Newport, and thank you for an incredible stopover from Newport, Rhode Island. Let's take a look at the racecourse for this double points transatlantic leg from Newport. The start right off Fort Adams goes up the Narragansett Bay towards Castle Hill, then back down to the Gurney's turning mark, around Rose Island, underneath the Newport Pell Bridge, and then it's the gates for departure, 5 and 6, as the boats head off into the Atlantic. The conditions brought to you by Vestas Wind and their 20 years of highly detailed climatological data from the Global Vestas Climate Library. We've got here downscaled to ultra-high resolution over the area of Newport, showing us breezy conditions funneling through the Narragansett Bay. The boats will tack into the wind and then, leaving Castle Hill to port, head out into the Atlantic. The first challenge for the teams is to avoid the exclusion zones off the coast of Rhode Island. Then it's past Cuddyhunk, Martha's Vineyard, and avoiding the Nantucket Shoals. Head north past Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, avoiding the ice gates. Then a charge across the Atlantic, leaving the southern coast of Ireland to port and heading in towards the very tidal Cardiff, Wales. Well, wonderful scenes. There's Fort Adams right there, and we've got a pretty decent crowd, 4 or 5 deep, all along the shoreline. The fog has largely lifted. That is the great news, because earlier on this morning, extremely concerned about the fog down on the water for the very latest. Let's go to our commentator there, Volvo Ocean Race veteran Ken Reid. What's it down on the water? Tell us.
Andy, finally, the weather gods are blessing us. It's been 2 long weeks of a lot of cold and a lot of rain, but we got 15 knots of breeze. The fog is finally lifted. It didn't look so good, like you said this morning, boy. You could barely see across Newport Harbor. But these guys are going to go ripping around for a little bit, work up a good sweat before they get offshore. They have a bunch of mark roundings, a bunch of maneuvers, and for sure we're about to see plenty of action.
Wonderful, thanks Kenny. And Kenny has got his guest Henry Bomby on board. We'll hear from him later, and he is a crew member on Turn the Tide on plastic and is sitting out for this transatlantic leg with 1 minute and 5 seconds to go. We're going to get insights from all of us. Wonderful to have Sally Barkow here sitting next to me. We've got Kenny Reid down on the water and Henry Bomby. 1 minute to go. There's his steed, Turn the Tide on plastic. Now, let's get into racing. 50 seconds. Vestas 11th Hour Racing at the windward end. The committee boat there, the grey gunboat 60, the pin end of the line down towards Fort Adams. And Charlie Enright is looking for a decent start here. We've got plenty of action today, I promise you. Axo Nobel on starboard. Sun Hunkai Scallywag in the middle having a little battle. And the 2 red boats, Mapfre and Dong Fong, down towards the pin end of the line with 23 seconds to go. Bows going down, accelerating. Sun Hunkai Scallywag. There's the bowman, Brad Farron. He is just holding slow down. Team Axo Nobel very close with 10 seconds to go. It's the final ocean leg to cross. It's double points for leg 9, transatlantic across the pond. It is all go to the UK and Cardiff, Wales. A clear start.
All clear, all clear.
Scallywag in the middle. Vestas 11th Hour Racing at the committee boat end. Excellent start from Mapfre, but look at this. Dong Fong underneath everyone, taking their sterns. They like the right-hand side. What a scene. What a perfect start from all 7 boats. How exciting, Sally.
Yeah, that was amazing. It looked like Dongfeng kind of got squished out there at the pin and had no choice. They had to start on port and duck the whole fleet. Big split right off the bat with the red boats.
Okay, let's go straight down on the water. Ken Reed, your thoughts?
Plenty of action. My goodness, do these people not know they have thousands of miles to go? Every single inch is being fought for sure. Charlie pulled the trigger at the weather end. Let's see if he can box everybody out and actually lead them off of the Newport Fort Adams shoreline. This is going to be very tricky as the boats pile up on the beach to the left side of the race course.
Well, Charlie Enright doing the crowds a big favour. The local hero, Charlie from Bristol, Rhode Island, grew up sailing on the Narragansett Bay, and now he is sailing around the world, pushing the whole fleet towards the crowd. I'm sure they will hear all of the cheers. Brunel just getting squeezed out there between Matt Frey. They were just a little late off the line, and that is all it takes, a few inches for them to get bad air. On board with Festus, let's listen in. Okay, super exciting. Let's go down to Ken. We got a question for Henry Bombi. Just tell us about the heart rate at these crucial moments, the start of the leg.
Yeah, I mean, the racing here, and when you start, for sure, the heart's pumping even before the start, and such a narrow channel here, there'll be lots of tacking, so it's going to be a bit of a grind-off. By the time they leave the Newport Harbour here, everyone will be sweaty, and you know, it's going to be a tough hour for them here, just inshore racing. But as you say, there's a hugely long way to go, but they won't give an inch. Everyone will be fighting for the key miles here.
So emotion, Henry, really gets put to the back now. It's all about the racing, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I tell you what, it's a bit of a blessing and a curse, these inshore races. You kind of you're super happy to do them, I find, because it just gives you something to concentrate as you leave the dock. You just focus on the inshore part, but you leave so hot and sweaty, you almost need to ditch your undergear that you're wearing underneath your salopettes and things because you're so hot afterwards. And it's a tough one, but the crews love this sort of racing, and it's just it's such a thrill with all the crowds and all the stopovers. And the stopover here in Newport has been amazing. The American fans are incredible. So, as you say, they'll be able to hear the fans as they get close to the shore here, as Matt Frey just looking like they're going to be setting up for attack.
Okay, great stuff. We've got pictures of Dongfeng just crossing ahead of Team Brunel. So that gives us the idea that Dongfeng are just a boat length or two behind. Team Brunel have had to clear out. That's Capey just to leeward. He's checking probably for the best tide, a bit of an outbound tide right now for the next couple of hours, so that'll mean the boats will all come back. Beautiful pictures of Clingstone, also called Mother-in-Law Rock, on the right-hand side. Very hard to get on and off. So if you have a family falling out, that's where you send them. Okay, on the right, Team Brunel in the back, Hammersmith Farm, where JFK and Jackie Kennedy had their wedding reception in Newport on this auspicious wedding weekend for any fans of the royal family or the Brits out there. Brunel on the right, Sun Hun Kai Scallywag in the middle, not so good. Matt Frey doing great work, looking like they're crossing over the whole fleet. That left-hand side was very good. Dongfeng decide to not force Vestas 11th Hour Racing to duck under them. They just tacked to leeward. So that was an interesting move from them. I wonder if they wanted to carry on, but we've got Matt Frey. Look at that. Matt Frey are in bow down mode, right, Sally?
Super bow down there. You can see how they're just powering over the fleet, and they want to gain control. So what they have is Dongfeng on the other side, kind of out of, Brunel on the other side, a little bit out of phase and possibly gaining, and so Matt Frey are just charging across.
Yeah, bow down means you just put the helm down a little bit. You go for more speed and less height to the next windward mark. Okay, down to the water, Ken Reed there. Plenty of boats. How's the turnout from the Newport sailing faithful?
Very impressive, especially since essentially you couldn't see Newport Harbor about an hour and a half ago. So I'm actually very pleasantly surprised at how many people have turned out. It's really been a great show. Listen, Matt Frey did the classic incoming tide, get out of Narragansett Bay, move up against the beach where there's less tide on the left-hand side, and sure enough, they have it nice. They're punched out pretty nicely. Dongfeng actually came out of that port tack kind of strange start in a pretty decent shape, and let's see if Vestas can hang on and not get pinched off, get dirty air from Dongfeng right now. They're kind of holding on as long as they possibly can, but Matt Frey did that classic get out of the current move, and has a couple boat length lead right now.
Yeah, well, we've got all of the boats out here. Just, Kenny, give us a feel of what it's like to do this. You've done this race now 3 times, and we were talking about the emotion. You've got to put that behind you, but still the adrenaline must be pumping.
Well, I got to tell you, for me, the dock outs were the hardest for sure. You know, most of us, especially at the time, there's a lot of crew with young kids, young families. The kids are crying. You know, it's tough. It's very, very emotional. So once you get out here, you're finally like, all right, thank goodness. We get to go do what we're paid to do, what we probably do best in our lives, and that's just go off and go sailboat racing and go try to win a sailboat race. So yes, it's hard, and Henry's exactly right. You're working up a sweat, and you got to do an around the buoys race just before several thousand miles of sailing, but you're finally like, thank goodness we're sailing again, and let's just get the heck out of here.
Okay, well, I don't want to ever correct anybody on the broadcast, but I do think, Kenny, we've got a small bit of outbound current. I think that there's a couple of hours of outbound current to go, so we're just looking at the different levels of current. You're a local expert. Looks like Team Brunel got a decent bit of tide around that dumplings area. What say you?
Well, there was incoming current over by the dumplings where we saw. There could be still a little bit of outbound over here. I'll tell you what. You want to bet a beer on whether Brunel comes out ahead or behind? I'm ready to take that bet.
No, from looking at the TV right now, where you're on Brunel and to windward is Matt Frey, I think I've still got Matt Frey definitely ahead right now, and I just feel like high tide was midday. So we are looking at the boats, and Matt Frey are leading, but Team Brunel currently on the tracker in second. Only a couple of minutes now to the top gate, and then the boats will put up probably A3 spinnakers today, Sally.
I'm thinking the A3, it looks like VMG run down all the way past Rose Island, so they're going to be wanting to sail as deep as possible and as fast as possible, which will put up the biggest sail they can for the downwind run.
Okay, Team Brunel tack onto starboard, and definitely the 5 other boats that went to that left-hand side have done better. Matt Frey leading Dongfeng race team about 3 or 4 boat lengths behind. And just give us your thoughts, Kenny, on this final approach to the top mark gate.
Yeah, here we go. You know, this starts the as Henry said, the grind fest, the grinding world championships. This is all about a very underhand crew, which means just not enough people to really functionally get around the buoys very, very well in a 65-foot boat. The crews are set up to go offshore, obviously, and all of a sudden you have to go around the buoys as if you were just in a dinghy in a little day race. So here we go, piling up, Andy, on this starboard tack ley line.
Okay, top of the leaderboard, and first around the first windward mark is Matt Frey, sailed beautifully, and second, very tight between Axo Nobel and Vestas. Axo Nobel just squeezed in. Here we go, Matt Frey leading around the first windward mark. At the beginning of leg 9, here they go around, bearing away, and now we are looking for the unfurl. Turn the tide on plastic coming in on port, so they have to avoid everybody else. And look how slow Vestas 11th Hour Racing are going. They're getting rolled over by Team Brunel. This could be interesting. Dee Kafari got to use all her skills right here. Oh, is she going to get ahead of Vestas 11th Hour Racing? Close, close. Vestas hold the starboard position, and Dee Kafari's going to go for it. She's going to attack there. Oh, my word. Is that legal? Is that okay? What are the umpires got to say? Might have got away with it, Sally.
I think she just got it right in there. You didn't see Vestas avoid too much, and she just put her bow perfectly behind Axo Nobel. Well done, Dee.
Yeah, good skills on the turn for tide on plastic boat, threading the needle through Axo Nobel and ahead of Vestas 11th Hour Racing. But that tactical situation may have slowed them down on the unfurl. A3s. Oh, no!
Oh, I heard that whistle.
Oh, dear. Dee just cut it a little too close, and that's the red flag from the umpire boats on the inshore section of the leg start. The umpires carry on umpiring. It is on the... Oh, just listening to Dee, and then we'll go to Kenny. Oh, she's annoyed.
Stop! Okay.
Liz Wardley.
Bianca Cook in the pit.
Yeah.
So when you have a big change of plan like that, then they have to really communicate, and quick change on the boat to not unfurl, refurl like they have, and get these penalties in.
And what has to happen now?
Now they need to do a circle.
Yeah, penalty turn. So that's what the umpires are holding up that red flag for. And she's got to do a 270. It'll end up being a 360-degree turn, and then we'll have to unfurl the... That is the A3.
That is the A3, yeah.
Okay. Let's go down to the water and get the latest from Kenny Reid. What did you think, penalty or no, Kenny, and the rush of blood? What was that all about?
We almost saw two boats mating there for a second, Andy. It was it was tight stuff. I'm not sure if Charlie gave it a little bit of a Hollywood and did quite a luff there, but he definitely had to alter course quite a bit. And once they came back down, there probably wasn't an overlap after he luffed, but I think there was before. So I think the umpires actually got it right.
Okay, the umpires got it right. I'd say that on a different day, Dee might have got away with that, but a very tight call, and the umpires don't want the boats hitting each other. Little problem on Matt Frey. Not their best jibe I've ever seen, for sure. Kenny, can you see Matt Frey? Any issues on board?
Yeah, it's the grind, you know, just trying to pull these huge A3s around with such a short-handed crew, not a whole lot of bodies to spin the pumps, to spin the coffee grinder handles. So, you know, it's just, if you don't get that timing right, it takes forever to get that thing in. If you get the timing right, like we just watched Scalawag do a nice little jibe here, if they're going to turn the tide on plastic, I'm not sure, but you know, it's really, really hard to manage these sails with such a short-handed crew.
Okay, great, Kenny. Well, we're just looking at some pretty expensive real estate down at Hammersmith Farm right there, but I wanted to go to Henry and say it was your team that got the penalty. Dee Kafari threading it in, just didn't quite get it. Tell us what the conversation will be like on board there, Henry.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I think I agree it probably was a penalty. It looked pretty close. Looked like Vestas had to avoid, unfortunately. But I think, you know, in those situations, it'll be a hard one, because if I saw the A3 started to unfurl, and when that happens, it's hard to get it back under control and start furling up again.
Great. Well, Henry, we're watching a match race battle right now at the beginning of this 3,500-mile leg. Matt Frey are being ground down by Dongfeng Race Team. Dongfeng jibed away, and Matt Frey have jibed to stick with them. These two, like glue, only a few boat lengths in between them. And the Chinese team, led by Charles Cordrelier, really putting the hammer down on Matt Frey, chasing them. And I tell you, Dongfeng Race Team coming right into Matt Frey. Matt Frey luffing. Matt Frey going higher than they would normally. Kenny, talk to us about this exciting moment between the red boats.
These red boats can't get away from each other. Let's just be brutally honest. And Matt Frey actually had a little better jibe. If they hadn't, they may have gotten rolled. So Matt Frey pokes their nose out. The big winner so far in this leg is Brunel, who was the only boat to take the right-hand side of the upper gate. They got down along really good pressure along the Jamestown side. I'll tell you what, they're right back in the hunt. And these two red boats, if they play with each other too much longer, that yellow thing is going to be right by both of them.
Oh, that's just what we want to see. The Dutch team getting ahead of both of them for a tight finish into Cardiff. And just tell us about the rules situation there between Matt Frey to leeward and Dongfeng Race Team to windward.
Yeah, plenty clear right now between the boats, Andy, but obviously if Dongfeng came up into a position to have an overlap on the windward side or the side that the wind is blowing from, they would have to keep clear. And knowing how these two boats are sailing right now, I'm guessing Pablo Arate would be about head to wind in a heartbeat. You know, they were definitely messing around with each other in the pre-start. There was a little bit of match racing going on. So imagine that, a match race happening just as a several thousand-mile leg starts. It's just fantastic.
Okay, we love a bit of argy-bargy in the line out, to use a rugby term. Let's go and have another look in a bit more detail at that windward mark situation on the tracker. Okay, so we see turn the tide on plastic on port. They see an opportunity. Vestas 11th hour racing so slow, and Di Cafari just managed to squeeze around, but Vestas 11th Hour Racing, I think in that little moment where they had to luff up, that was where the foul occurred. Sally, talk us through that bit.
Yeah, it looks a little clearer on the tracker there. I sort of thought she squeezed it in well enough, and Charlie maybe did a little Hollywood that, you know, there was a little distance between the boats, but we got to remember these are 65-foot racing yachts, so you can't, you do have to avoid each other, and you can't be too close, and you can't risk a collision out there. So too bad for them. I think they, you know, they had a nice little chance to gain some position there, and it ends up being a loss.
Yeah, no need for any biffo before 3,500 miles across the Atlantic. You wouldn't want to be sticking carbon fiber back together. Yeah, Kenny Reed feels more reminiscent of some of the America's Cup matches that you've done and have been famous here on the waters of Rhode Island.
Well, watch this. Brunel is about to be on starboard tack, is about to make life very difficult for Dongfeng. In fact, they do the right thing. They jibe and actually just let their A3 luff to let Brunel go by. Watch Brunel probably jibe right in front of them as they get slow. This is hand-to-hand combat. And again, it's just... Yeah. It's fantastic for the crowds to watch. Brunel decides to keep going. They're going to have to jibe 3 more times, Andy, to get around this mark off of the gurney mark. So there's going to be some, Henry, there's going to be some tired people out here when this is all said and done.
Yeah, it's incredible racing, and it's quite funny watching Dongfeng and Mapfre do some match racing down the shoreline there. Speaking to both, I've got friends on both the crews, and they say that actually in a lot of the legs, that's how they sail most of the time offshore, just right next to each other, up and down, and it's endless, they say. And we've had a few matchups with Scallywag and Axonoble during the legs, and it's kind of ridiculous sometimes. You find yourself in the middle of the ocean having these matchups, and it's cool that you guys get to see this on the inshore course on a much more spectacular level. The sun's out now, and this is some awesome racing to watch.
What a treat for the thousands of fans down on Fort Adams, and what a treat for us. Thank you to all our fans watching on Twitter, on Facebook. Tell us where you're watching from all around the world. We got people in Mexico, in Curacao, in Cardiff, in Labrador. Amazing, all around the world. Brilliant to have you watching. Make your comments, show us the love. Here's Team Brunel, who are doing what they've done for the last few legs and really showing their form. Pete Burling, he is a player, right? Amazing. Great pictures. Team Brunel heading down towards the Gurney's Resort mark. And actually, Kenny, maybe you can tell us, that Gurney's mark is quite tight around Go Island there. There are a few shallow patches where they have to navigate around Go Island as well. A challenge for sure. How's it looking down there?
Yeah, so they have to go back through this start-finish line gate right now, Andy. So what they're probably trying to do is set up for a starboard tack ley line into that mark. And then that mark, talk about a grind fest. This is going to be furl the A3, a tight reach across around Rose Island, and then unfurl the A3 again for another short run down through the Newport Bridge. So this is, and you know, this Burling guy, we just watched him jibe on Brunel, and talk about just unbelievably low key. They just position the boat well and wind it up, and here he is about to cut somebody in half on Mapfre, just chewing themselves up through the fleet.
Yeah, starboard on Mapfre. Brunel have to avoid a big head up on the bow. Pete Burling got it all under control, though. Brilliant trimming on board. And now, look at them. They are absolutely lit up, doing 15 knots around the stern of the current leaders. Look at the smile on his face. Brilliant. Everyone loving it. The sun's come out. And I can tell you folks who are watching now live, only an hour ago, this place was covered in thick fog. We were all we were going to have is a start and a leg departure. And this has made the fans' day wonderful. I'm so pleased for Newport and Brunel. Look at that. Great pictures. Check the crowd behind Jamestown. Jamestown in the background, and crowds abounding and being put on a sailing masterpiece. Newport showing her very best. Brunel and Mapfre pretty close, and there's a big split there, Sally.
A big split, and I like how Brunel are really kind of staying out of phase with the group. So they're, you know, on the opposite side of the course right now, which means they don't have to fight in the bad air. They can line up their own ley line, and then they'll be on starboard when the boats come back together.
Yeah, look at that. There is Rose Island all the way to the right, and all 4 boats here. We've got Mapfre, we've got Dongfeng, only 2 or 3 boat lengths behind them. Then Axonoble, another 2 or 3 lengths. Then Vestas 11th Hour Racing also. And a big, as Kenny said, a big rounding down at the Gurney's mark will put pressure on the crews big time. Kenny. Kenny Reed down on the water. Tell us, what's the latest?
Yeah, I'm not sure they're going to lay this in one jibe. So Brunel really put themselves in a great spot. They are actually the only boat here that kind of played well, we do definitely have outgoing current on this side of the race course. You might have been right on that one, Andy, but you'd still owe me a beer from that crossing.
Yeah, sure.
But these other guys might have to jibe 2 more times coming into this mark because they're coming up on Goat Island, and like you said, it gets a little shallow in there. So they may not make it in one, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, Goat Island, just to the left-hand side. It's connected by a small bridge now, but it's the site of burial site of 21 pirates in the 1700s. Between the high water and the low water mark, there's the Gurney's Resort, wonderful renovation. They put in a marina. There's the lighthouse on the right-hand side where those pirates are buried back in the 1700s. They didn't make it. And here we go. What a scene. Look at that, the helicopter going over the Gurney's Resort, and Matt Frey just jibing ahead of Dongfeng race team. Brunel all the way to the right. There's an opportunity for them to jump across in front of the fleet. A lead chain so tight behind them. Akzo Nobel and Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Everyone getting a full meal today of beautiful sailing on Narragansett Bay. Now, what you can't see here on the pictures is Brunel storming in on starboard. I think they're going to be well ahead. I think Pete Burling has played a blinder here. Bauer Becking, the skipper and tactician, done a beautiful job. Here we go with the foe. Brilliant sailing from Team Brunel, who take the lead ahead of Matt Frey and Dongfeng race team in 2nd and 3rd around the Gurney's Resort mark. Blair Tuke there on the grinders. Dongfeng now, look at that, only a boat length and a half between them and Matt Frey. It's a reach towards Rose Island now. They've just got to get the last bit of the jib in. Slightly late on the furl on Dongfeng. Sally, be super critical.
Yeah, slightly late on the furl, and actually worse off is that they didn't get the jib in time, and so they're just losing boat lengths here on Matt Frey.
Yeah, and they're slightly in their dirty air as well. Team Akzo Nobel having the same sort of issues. Vestas 11th Hour Racing, they got their jib in, their furl's a bit later, so they're not worrying too much about that, but the jib is now in. Next up, it's around Rose Island, so named because at low tide it looks like a rose. We'll see if we can get a heli shot of Rose Island. And it was the lighthouse on Rose Island was used until built in 1870 and used until about 1970 when the Newport Bridge was built. David Witt on Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. Around the mark, and D. Kafari on Turn the Tide on Plastic, still right in the hunt despite having to do that penalty turn at the top. Let's go on board with D, listening.
Bring up 40 degrees.
Okay, there's Rose Island Lighthouse, beautiful. US Navy used to use this actually to store explosives during World War I and II, and it was a naval torpedo station. Now you can go and stay in that lighthouse. It's an amazing experience, absolutely beautiful. If you can get through the ducks and the seagulls all nesting there, you'll have a wonderful time. Leading Team Brunel, then Matt Frey, then Dongfeng race team, then Akzo Nobel, Vestas 11th Hour Racing, Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, and Turn the Tide on Plastic. But as you can see, one false move here, Sally, and there'll be a change. It's all on.
Just nipping, yeah, they're just, I mean, Matt Frey's charging. Dongfeng had a little hiccup, but they're going to be charging again. We have another, not quite BMG downwind, but another downwind run under the bridge. So we saw a lot of jibing happen, and
A3.
Yep, it's A3 again, but we saw a lot of jibing happen, so there's always a chance that, you know, some little hiccup goes wrong. They have to stay on their game.
just talk to us about light hands. I mean, there aren't enough people on board these boats for these tight inshore maneuvers.
Yeah, and what's super interesting here on Brunel, now we've seen Bauer grab the helm a few times around some of the marks. So when they have a really tough maneuver, Pete actually jumps off the helm onto the handles to add a little bit of fresh blood in, and it's quite an interesting way to use the most energy possible on the boat.
Yeah, well done them. Okay, let's go down on the water. Ken Reed, give us your perspective. Super pictures we're seeing here of all the fleet really close and the brilliant spectator fleet.
Well, I think Bauer is finally onto something. He's the old man of the fleet here, you know, so he doesn't want to grind too much. So he's the skipper. Says to the kid, "Hey, kid, you 27-year-old, you get on the pumps while I drive around this mark, and you're gonna like it, son."
Yeah, is that how you're going to run your next Volvo Ocean Race campaign, Kenny?
That's exactly how you run a Volvo Ocean Race campaign, as a matter of fact. It only took 8 times for him to figure it out, but, you know, these Dutchies.
Yeah, very good. Well, the Dutch are the nation that has won the Volvo Ocean Race most times. 4 times they've won it, and this really is perhaps Bauer Becking's best opportunity. If they win this next leg, and Matt Frey and Dong Fong come any worse than 3rd or 4th, it is all on for the overall and the last 2 legs to Gothenburg and then to The Hague. Look at those pictures. The Pell Bridge, built in 1970. Amazing you could build something so beautiful in 1970. They did a great job. And that is Brunel, Matt Frey, Dong Fong, Axo Nobel, Festus 11th Hour Racing, Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, and Turn the Tide on Plastic, all line astern, steaming down the Narragansett Bay under the Pell Bridge. Beautiful. Kenny, I just can't believe we've got away with this. An hour ago we couldn't see hand in front of our face, Kenny.
Yeah, well, this kind of worked in my advantage maybe, because I was nodded to be the jumper on the back of the plastics boat today. It's the person that jumps off as you enter, as you exit Narragansett Bay. So because they took the jumpers off the boat, I'm nicely out here with Henry on this nice little TV rib, and I'm going to stay dry today. So I think that fog actually worked in my advantage in a big, big way.
Yeah, and I've lost out heavily, as has Dee Kafari, because Brad Reed offered us a lot of money to ensure that you didn't actually get pushed off the back of the boat and they'd take you all the way to Cardiff, Wales.
Yeah, there's plenty of people that were voting in both.
Yeah, plenty of people queuing up, mate. Right. Water, you can see. Look at that, Carl Langford taking a lot of water down, and that, Henry, to your point, gives an idea of how much effort has gone in already. We've only been going 28 minutes.
Yeah, Kenny and I actually just commented as we saw them go around that mark earlier that a lot of the crews again is stripping off, more and more taking off the top layer. Everyone's getting down to their thermals, and you don't want to sweat out. Basically, it's a tough one. You need to put all the effort in, but you don't want to get it. You don't want to get your kit wet. The flat water in here, so I think they can probably get away with taking the top layer off and trying to cool down a little bit. It's an absolute grind off, and a bit of respite here though, which they'll be enjoying before another. You know, strong. It'll be a beat out of here, all the way out into the open ocean now. So this is the last bit of respite they'll get. Well, I say that Matt Frey now jibing, so they'll be having a grind off.
Oh well, yeah. Matt Frey go out of the lineup, decide that they're going to jibe, and that's probably because their local knowledge suggests there's a bit less tide in the sort of back end of Rose Island. Brunel continue. And for any of those that got vertigo, that was not the last 30 seconds. Oh, yeah, anyone who gets vertigo, look away right now. Beautiful pictures. And Dong Fong sticking to Matt Frey like glue. Beautiful. Okay, now the crew's starting to talk about conversations about what they're going to do, furling up the A3, getting out the J1. They're going to go around this bottom mark, a leeward mark, and then it's pretty much all the way upwind back to Castle Hill. They have to go back through the start-finishing line, and we'll go down to the water. Kenny, give us an update.
Yeah, Brunel's doing the same thing. They're gonna just time this lay line. They're gonna go one and in while everybody else jibes twice. little bit lighter air, as you probably know, Andy, up in that corner, but still, one less maneuver out here with these boats. It's probably 2 or 3 boat lengths saved, so they got a little bit in the bank there, but one more in, and they're going to come ripping into this leeward mark like they came in ripping into that gurney mark back there, and likely have a nice little lead heading out of Narragansett Bay and like trying to go get themselves back in the hunt to win this race overall.
Yeah, that's the key thing, isn't it? I mean, we've crunched the numbers, and if Brunel win this leg and Matt Frey come 5th, Dongfeng come 4th, so they only need to put a couple of boats in between them. Brunel would go on to 57, Dongfeng would be on 58, and Matt Frey would be on 59 for the last 2 legs in. Oh, please. That would be amazing. What a banner finish to this race. And you know the opportunities, Kenny. This is a double points leg. There are big opportunities, right?
Oh, my goodness, yes. And you know, the 2 red boats, yes, they've spent plenty. Well, here they are jibing right on top of each other.
Yeah, talk us through it. Talk it.
Well, there's one thing I noticed here is Matt Frey, most of the boats do a nice slow turn so they can grind on the far side of it. Dongfeng really throws the boat around much more than the others do. It's very interesting, a very different maneuver style from Charles Corderlier than several of these others. Burling was really slow in these jibes, and he allows his troops to kind of get the grinding going long before the sail fills on the new side. They're coming in with a big lead, as you can see on Brunel, and they've sailed their own leg. They had the worst start in the fleet and just got out of sorts, like Sally said, with everybody early on, and man, has it paid off.
Yeah, Dongfeng and Matt Frey, tell us what they're up to. They look very close. We're seeing the 2 boats right in front of us.
Well, they're glued to each other, and by the way, if you're on the yellow boat right now, you hope that lasts all the way across the ocean, because that gives them an opportunity to split and maybe get some distance between them and have another good result, and maybe even get another couple boats in between them. So I think if you're Bauer Becking, you kind of like this position. You're the hunter, not the hunted, and let these red boats maybe make a mistake or two while they just watch each other too closely.
Okay, around the bottom mark, Team Brunel. Nina Curtis on the bow, Sally?
Looks like it, and they're going to try to drop this A3 in this turn, I would imagine.
Okay. I think they're going to...
Oh, that's Abby on the bow, actually.
Okay. No, Nina. Yeah. Nina Curtis on the bow as they go around this leeward mark. Look at that. Henry Bombay was talking about the grinding. We've got Pete Burling on the pumps going hard. And now we've got a bit of nautical ballet as Matt Frey and Dongfeng race team both furl up their A3s, and we're going to have almost a simultaneous rounding. They've just got that furl okay on Matt Frey. They're looking a little loose for a bit, but looks okay now. Nettie on the bow as Matt Frey go around. Dongfeng will have to wait for Matt Frey to squeeze their way around. I wonder if there was an opportunity for Dongfeng to go around to windward of them and get an inside overlap. That would have been fully punchy. Anyway, look at that. Look how close it is. So this is the furthest into Narragansett Bay we're going to go. And Dongfeng race team are getting their A3 down. Matt Frey going to leave it up for the moment. Henry Bombay, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's looking like a real close race. Dongfeng did a really nice job there. They got their A3 down just enough in, just before we got around the mark there. And that's a manoeuvre that we all try to do because it just saves a lot of heartache. I think everyone else will go A3s down in the tack, so they'll head towards the shoreline, they'll get it off the lock, drop it to the leeward side of the J1. Then they'll throw in a tack and drop it then. So Dongfeng now, if they can get themselves a good lane, will be a bit faster than the other boats. So they did a nice job and worth the extra effort there at that leeward mark.
Okay, great insight. Thank you, Henry. He's one of the crew members on Turn the Tide on Plastic, and they have quite a big rotation. They are one of the only the only crew changes to let you all know about. Sophie Cizek is back on Matt Frey. And they just sailed with one person less. She is now fully recovered from a slight injury. And on Turn the Tide on Plastic, they've got their usual crew rotations. Elodie Jane Matreau is back in. Bledin Mon, Bernardo Freitas, and Brian Thompson is now navigating. Nicholas Lundgren, Francesca Klapcic, Henry Bombi and Federico Mello are all sitting this transatlantic race out, but I'm sure we'll see them back on for the next few. Di Cafari doing a great job of rotating her team and keeping a very happy ship all the way. And Henry, just tell us while we watch pictures of Di Cafari, how hard is it for you? And let's we want a bit of raw honesty from you, watching them leave and being on the subs bench for this one.
Oh, it's horrible. Yeah, I'd much rather be out there, especially seeing the great racing that these guys are having now. And I love the Southern Ocean legs that we did. They were tough and gritty, but I really enjoyed them, and there's got to be a bit of that in this next one. Seeing the boats leave the dock this morning was hard. Kenny and I were actually talking about it. He said, I don't miss it at all, and I certainly do. Wish I was back out there, certainly. And it's a tough time, and a few of my friends are like, you're going to have to be a bit more excited before you get on the commentary. I was a bit grumpy this morning, but no, I think the guys will have a great leg. We've just been going up and up as a team in the last few legs, and we feel the momentum for us is building. We're closing the speed gap, and yes, for sure, I wish I'd rather be out there, but this is awesome watching the racing now.
Well, Henry, you're still in the group, the young and the restless, and I think Kenny's moved on from that. But just talk to us about what doing this race means to you and the opportunity it's presented.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, I've wanted to do this race ever since I was a kid. I followed it when the Volvo was starting out of Portsmouth, and I went to go watch it with my friends and said, hey, one day I'm going to do that race. So yeah, just to do any leg of this race, is fantastic. And yeah, for sure I want to do more, and hopefully I'll get the opportunity to join a team for the next one as well, with the experience I've managed to gain this time. So it's just an awesome race. You know, to be able to do what you love and to race around the world is an incredible opportunity. We're incredibly lucky, and for sure it can get tough out there, but you know, the reason we're out here is because we love it, and you know, we're incredibly fortunate to have all of us to be out here and have this amazing opportunity to compete against the best guys in the world.
Well, there are a lot of people who want to sail around the world and then do the Volvo Ocean Race. Just tell us what it's like to actually turn a dream like this that seems so unattainable when you're 10 years old into reality that you're involved in now.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a long road. I did 4 years on the Figaro circuit single-handed. I sailed on Fado Mod 70 Trimaran for 2 years before getting a trial on Turn the Tide on plastic with D, and then being fortunate enough to get selected for the team. And you know, I wanted to do the race for so long that it's been a goal. Everything that I've done, I feel like I've been working towards trying to get here, and yeah, it's just an incredible opportunity. And yeah, it's one of those. I don't think I'll really feel like it's sunk in until the end of the race. I sit at home and I look back at the photos and the videos and the amazing experience we've had. I mean, we were a last-minute team. We were probably the last to get going. I only started 2 or 3 months before the start of the race, and it's been a bit of a whirlwind since I got selected. So the time I'll have at home now, a week at home, be maybe a nice little time to reflect on the journey so far before the final push into The Hague.
Okay, wonderful, Henry, and that'll give you some time to print out your CV and bandy it around to some of the teams, I'm sure. And my final question really is, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to get involved in this race? You were talking about some of the tune-up events that you did prior to getting involved.
Yeah, for me, the Figaro was a great opportunity with the Artemis Offshore Academy. I think that gave a lot of us the opportunity to do races like this. Jack Boutel was with me on that, competed against him for many years, and he's the bowman on Dongfeng. And I think that for us was an incredible experience. We got to make a bit of a name for ourselves, competed by yourself and blooded into the offshore scene. And I think that's set me up for sure into what is an incredible career path really to race offshore. So I think just the other bit of advice I guess I'll give is to just sail on as many different boats with as many different people as you can. Every time you go sailing you can learn something from everyone, and every boat you go sailing on, you can transfer something from that boat onto the next one. And so I really kind of focused on that when I was younger, just trying to get as much experience as possible, say yes to everything, deliveries, every opportunity you can get, and yeah, if you keep working at it, you will get there.
Well done, Henry. Turn up early and work harder than anybody else. So that's very good insight from Henry Bombi. We're looking at pictures of Team Brunel as they lead the fleet just behind them on their bow. Rose Island Lighthouse, lovely. And still a titanic tussle between these top teams. It is Dongfeng and Mapfre having a real battle. Only 3 boat lengths or so between them. Now we go leave Rose Island on the left-hand side. There you can see it just about looks like a rose, doesn't it? And there we go. Yeah. Kenny, just give us your thoughts about when you see people who are young and hungry and want to get involved in this sort of thing. You have picked some of them yourself. What makes the difference between someone who makes it and someone who doesn't? Bauerbecking driving right now. Kenny.
Yeah, well, Henry nailed it. There's no shortcuts, you know, and the kids coming up through the ranks right now, if they're looking to cut a couple steps, it's never going to happen. So Nick Dana is a perfect example of how much effort. He started off as a short team nipper with us on our first Puma program a number of years ago, and he was an onboard reporter, and then he did the bow last time, and all of a sudden, you know, all of a sudden he's a key integral guy in the Vestas program. So there's no free lunch out here, man, in anything we do, but especially when you're trying to compete at the top level, like all these guys are competing. You just got to put in the effort and hope good things happen.
Excellent. Okay, got pictures of Dongfeng. They're starting to put a bit of stack up there. They are just getting rid of the A3, and I just love watching these boats right here in Narragansett Bay. I sail every night here, every Wednesday night on the Shields fleet. We got up to 25 boats on a Wednesday night sail. Sally, just talk to us about Dongfeng. We're seeing pictures of them right now. How important is it for Dongfeng to get ahead of Mapfre and finish ahead of them?
I mean, clearly that's their goal. They are all pushing for that. But I was speaking to Kevin Escoffier on the dock there, and he just said, you know, we're due. We haven't won a leg yet, and he's just feeling that it's their time. And yeah, they're looking at the stern of Mapfre right now and Brunel, but they've got a long way to go. And I really feel like they're gonna, you know, have a chance to turn it on out there and lead into Cardiff, which would be quite amazing for them, and you know they deserve it. They had such a strong showing so far, and they haven't actually, you know, crossed the finish line first.
And they were unlucky on the way into Newport because they were leading, as Kevin said in the videos prior. They were leading, and they basically got mugged.
I think they really did. You know, they sail so solidly, and they get to the you know how many miles from the finish, and it was just you know taken away from them. So I think they enter this next leg with a lot of confidence that they can do it. And you know, even though they're looking at the sterns right now, it's not bothering them. They're just going to push really hard.
Team Akzo Nobel as well. They've set their sights on podium finishes and better. The last 4 legs they've been on the podium: third, second. Can they? Apart from this last leg, my apologies, but they've been under a bit of pressure, but they've been a moving team, and they've actually gone up the scoreboard. Can they get another win as they did into Auckland, New Zealand?
Yeah, I think that'll be an interesting one. You know, I see the Brunel, Mapfre, and Dongfeng really stepping it up that another little notch, and can Akzo, you know, hang with them? I think they can hang with them. I don't know if they have the full package to, you know, to lead the whole leg, but we'll see. You know, I think we can really count on Brunel, Mapfre, and Dongfeng pushing it really hard.
Okay, fault tolerant there on the right. There's got plenty of people on the race committee boat enjoying what is now a sunny, warm, and windy afternoon in Newport, Rhode Island. What a perfect way to spend a Sunday afternoon. Little overstand there from Mapfre, and that will give Akzo Nobel something to think about. So just tell us what's happening there.
Looks like Mapfre, you have to cross through the start line as part of the course. So Mapfre overstood. They have to press down. You see the Traveler down a bit. The sails kind of cracked off. They're going faster, which is good, but they're losing a lot of gauge, which they had, so they sailed more distance upwind. But now they're going to round the committee boat, harden back up, trim both those sails back on, and we'll see where Akzo come out on, but they might even be just a little bit bad air at Mapfre for this longer upwind.
Yeah, well, everyone on the committee boat getting a bird's eye view, and Dongfeng also having to come down by a few boat lengths, and that's given Akzo Nobel right back into it. They are in dirty air. I'd expect Akzo Nobel perhaps to tack off here. Maybe even Dongfeng Race Team will tack off too, just to get out of the dirty wind of Mapfre ahead. Okay, as they're coming into the start-finishing line, Kenny, give us an update from down on the water.
Yeah, they're starting to relax a little bit. It's very clear. The stacks are all coming up on the starboard side because as they get around Castle Hill, they're going to crack off on starboard tack, and they'll have a nice 115, 120 degree wind angle blast reach around really one of these first exclusion zones. So they're all very slowly piling all their sails up on the starboard side. Even though they'll spend a little more time on port tack prior to getting out, they'll be prepared as soon as they get around the corner to get up a bigger headsail and take off. And my guess is we're going to see some pretty good pace once these guys get offshore and they can crack sheets.
Okay, and we've got some iconic spots for the boats to go around. Castle Hill and then Nantucket Shoals. Kenny, you know these waters.
Well, Nantucket Shoals, fortunately, there's a bit of an exclusion zone around there because that Nantucket Shoals is always a place that really is enticing. It kind of sucks you in. Believe it or not, it's essentially on the Great Circle rum line all the way over to Europe, to Wales, where these guys are going. So it's always enticing, and you always look in there and think, oh, maybe there's enough water, but I'll tell you what, it is a dicey, dicey area. I've been through there a ton, and all the sand and dirt shifts around with a big-time current out there. There'll be fishing boats out. You know, as soon as they get offshore, they're going to be back into fog again. So you got to believe that the radars and the AISs are going to be manned full time to make sure they don't get themselves. There's fishing nets, you know, that are set off at the Sakonnet River. There's plenty of stuff that they got to be worried about, especially within this first 24 hours. And they got to be very careful as they pick and choose their way through these areas.
Yep. There'll be sirens in the Nantucket Shoals, bringing those sailors in, keep well clear and avoid at all costs. So, Fort Adams to Leeward, great crowds, Team Akzo Nobel. Oh my word, look at that spectator fleet, unreal. Dongfeng in amongst there, trying to get that last of the ebb tide around Clingstone there. They tack just in the boundary, the exclusion zone. They're just trying to split tacks always from Mapfre, trying to shake them. And Mapfre still plenty ahead, but it's close, and this is going to be how it goes down for 3,500 miles. Mapfre sort of want to push Dongfeng down so that Akzo Nobel get back into the mix. And up towards Castle Hill. How are the crowds looking up at Castle Hill, Kenny?
Oh, it's unbelievable, and again, we just got so lucky. I can hear the sigh of relief from my brother Brad.
Yeah.
the crowds have all of a sudden woken up in Newport and decided, holy smokes, this could be really cool out here today, and we're not going to miss it. And thank goodness, because Newport deserved to show to throw a showing like this, to get these amazing sailors and amazing boats out of here, an event that we all love so much. You know, it would have been a shame if this just stayed crummy and lousy weather, and this is a perfect ending to this amazing stopover for the Volvo Ocean Race.
Yeah, well done, Brad. He paid off the right person, or said the right prayers, and he's got what he wanted, which was a beautiful sunny departure for all 7 of these boats. From the only stopover in North America, and Sail Newport has done a great job. Their main focus is getting kids out sailing, and they've done a lot of fundraising over the last 12 to 18 months. Every person in the 4th grade, I think the kids aged around 8 to 10 years old, they all get to go sailing at Sail Newport for free as part of their offering to all the school kids on the island. Portsmouth, Middletown and Newport. It's brilliant. There you go. 7 or 8 times in a semester, and they basically all learn how to sail. Brilliant work from Sail Newport. And they also moonlight organising this event here for the Volvo Ocean Race, and they do an amazing job also. Thanks to the 800 volunteers and all the staff at Sail Newport for continuing to do amazing work bringing sailing to the masses. Brunel lead over Mapfre. Dongfeng race team just ahead of Axo Nobel. Then Vestas 11th Hour Racing. These now are getting towards the departure gate, so the boats will follow them, and the crowds at Fort Adams will have given their final cheer and wave. My old friend Tucker Thompson geeing up the crowd like no one can, and heard some cheering from them for sure. Around 10 to 12,000 people at least today on Fort Adams, so it's great. Castle Hill in the background there. We'll be enjoying some afternoon mudslides. Great pictures, look at that breeze building, Sally.
Yeah, it's starting to freshen up out there, and I think they're going to have, as soon as they make these turning marks, it's going to be quite a strong pressure and blasting along on a nice reaching angle. So the teams will be quite excited. The boats, it's really a time when the boats light up, you know, at that 90 to 100, 110 true. We'll see what front sails they go for, probably just depending on how much breeze they're expecting as they turn the corner.
We got a question from Jim Winfield. Which boats are American? Well, I can tell you the Vestas 11th Hour Racing boat is American and Danish. Vestas, the Danish wind farm manufacturer, are sponsors, and also Vestas 11th Hour Racing, who are based here in Newport, Rhode Island, doing great things for turning the tide on plastic, and Decafari also with that great message. Okay, Henry, you can tell us about some of that on Turn the Tide on Plastic, the importance of the mission. Henry.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I've noticed over the last 7 or 8 years, the amount of debris that you see in the water increasing, and it feels like now, I mean, obviously when you're a part of a project like this, you're more aware of all the messages and things that are coming out there, but it feels like the message about single-use plastic and saving our ocean's health is really starting to take off. I know back home in the UK there's a lot of great initiatives by the government, and I know that the ocean summits that we take part in all the way around the world, you know, getting governments to sign up, getting, you know, I know America signed up here to the pledge to, to help save our oceans, and you know, it's an amazing thing to be a part of. The oceans are our playground, and you know, to be able to be a part of a young team and a team carrying what I think will be a very important message for my generation throughout our lifetime is fantastic, and to be racing for such a good cause is something I know is, with the young team, is something that we're all you know, passionate about and delighted to be involved with.
Okay, well done, Henry. Keep up the good work, and thank you for being down there on the rib, giving us your perspective and insight as you watch your team leave. I'm sure very difficult moments, but thanks very much for joining us. And to Kenny, just give us your thoughts on this super send-off.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Brunel all of a sudden did a very aggressive quick tack and kind of reached into this gate. My guess is on board either KP might have been taking a nap for a second, or they were having a debate as to whether you even had to go through this gate at the top of the race course before you send off out into the ocean. But they did quite a quick tack and kind of reached down in through the gate. There's the current is fully switched, and we have a lot of outgoing current here, so that might also help their overstand. The relief is on. You know, the grinding world championships for all these boats is almost over. But the hard part really starts, and that is heading off into a cold North Atlantic with the Labrador current and big low pressure system that they're going to try to stay in front of for the next few days. And you know, this is going to be some tough sailing. They're going to get some breezy conditions where a lot of currents meet, the Gulf Stream, the Labrador current. This is not to be. Doesn't quite have the reputation of the Southern Ocean, but I'll tell you what, I've been in the North Atlantic in some conditions that I would rival in the Southern Ocean anytime. It's no picnic out there, so none of these sailors are taking it lightly, I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, well, speaking of picnics, Kenny, usually freeze-dried food aboard these boats for the transatlantic crossing. Did you have any favorite food on board?
So freeze-dried food for sure for everybody, and I was very good at squirreling away peanut butter and jelly and some wraps. And so freeze-dried food, I tell you what, Andy, this is no lie. I would have done more offshore sailing if it weren't for freeze-dried food. I hated freeze-dried food more than anything. I lost 18 pounds on one leg once because of freeze-dried food. So I always talked about maybe we do some sort of weight loss clinic by just sailing people back and forth across the Atlantic Ocean and eat freeze-dried food. Peanut butter and jelly. That was my my theft, and I would squirrel that away, and I was good to go.
Yeah, well, your onboard reporter for that race, Amory Ross, did give me a little heads up that those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches got squirreled away, and if he wanted to remain in your good books, he'd go and slap a bit on a bit of bread for you. So shout out to Amory Ross, one of the greatest onboard reporters. Go and have a look at some of his photos. Amazing. Okay. Yeah, I can hear the crowds in the background, Kenny. Everyone's still cheering them on.
Yeah, Castle Hill is all obviously looks gorgeous in this breeze, and tons of people out on the front lawn. It kind of reminiscent. This is exactly where they start the Bermuda race every 2 years, and the crowds come out for that. So nice job to Newport and southeastern New England for really toughing it out, coming down here even though the weather was looking just brutal this morning, and really sending off a bunch of people who deserve a great send-off, because Lord only knows these sailors and these boats are worked hard around the world, including the shore crews. And don't forget the families who are supporters of all these crews. They don't get nearly enough credit, but they are right there. They are a massive part of the success of each and every person out here and their health and well-being.
Yep, and our thoughts go out to Hans Horowitz, his family, who tragically lost on ABN AMRO 2 on this transatlantic leg over 10 years ago. So just big up for all of that, and our thoughts are with you. Turn the tide on plastic now. Pictures of them as they head upwind. They're only they're less than 100 meters behind Sung Hoon Kai Scallywag. Vestas 11th Hour Racing a couple of hundred meters ahead of them. But after what is now nearly an hour of racing, the boats still so close to each other, Sally.
Yeah, really nice to see. I mean, they have got a few more maneuvers here. A couple, maybe they'll get the J3s up as they start reaching, but you know, really nice. The breeze is picking up. We're going to see some jackets get put back on the sailors as they prepare for, you know, the long haul, as they settle in and start really showing what these boats can do on a fast angle.
Yeah, very good. Team Brunel leading. Here we go for the final turning mark. So the umpires are done now, and it is offshore rules apply. So Team Brunel leading over Mapfre, Dongfeng Race Team, then Akzo Nobel, then Vestas 11th Hour Racing. On board with the current leaders, Team Brunel. Can they wire to wire it here from Newport, and can they lead into Cardiff? Double points transatlantic. So the course for those uninitiated is out of Newport, turn left, basically avoid Cuddyhunk, avoid Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. They can't stop for a nice summer cocktail there, which I'm sure they'll all be okay about, because yeah, that's my house. Oh no, it's not. That's Castle Hill. Sadly, not my house. I wish it was. But look at that beautiful scene. And that's the Lighthouse, where, as Kenny was saying, the Newport Bermuda race starts from. And there are lots, the Ida Lewis race, all sorts of distance races that they run here out of Newport. Really the home of sailing in America. It is a wonderful summer location. It does get a little chilly in the winter, but there we go. You can actually see Mapfre just having to squeeze around, what is that? If we've still got Kenny, what is that, R2? Or
that's R2 out there. So they're squeezing around R2, and then Brunel in that outgoing current might have overstood a little bit. Mapfre is trying to cut the corner a bit. But yeah, they're definitely settling in. All the stacks will be up. They'll be filling their weather side water tank here shortly, and kind of bob and weave their way through all these different exclusion zones that are set up for everything from shipping traffic to whale mating grounds and everything in between. So navigators will not get a lot of sleep over the next 24 hours. I can just about guarantee you that.
Okay, it looks like it's getting pretty bumpy out there now, Kenny. They're getting into already something of Atlantic conditions. Yeah,
exactly. It is bumpy. It's big. We're in a 25-foot rib, and I can tell you it's a little bumpy right now. The outgoing current is certainly has.
Okay, well, we've got Kenny getting all the way out there now, and he'll be putting on his oilskins on board with Team Brunel, and that gives us an idea. Jamestown Island to the left, Newport to the right-hand side. Mackerel Cove, just up there, lovely place for a summer spot when the sun comes out, and the spring, I hope, has sprung today in Newport for this super send-off. And the boats head basically 068 towards the Labrador, the ice exclusion zone, or Nova Scotia. Then they head across the Atlantic, and it's 062 from that exclusion to Cardiff. So they actually head quite far north of east, and it gets colder. And the depression is forecast, so that is not a psychological situation for the sailors. It is a weather depression. The barometric pressure goes down and the wind goes up. And the crucial thing, I'm told by Anderson Reggio, who gave me his regular pre-leg briefing, said that the crucial thing will be holding on to that depression as it rolls eastwards towards the United Kingdom. And the boats that can hold on to the depression and the breeze longer will get big benefit, because as the depression rolls over, it gets lighter on the backside, and then the boats will go around searching for wind, and that's when it'll get difficult. Turn the tide on plastic, getting their stack together right there, and we've got people already sat on the side for as much boat speed as they can. There's water ballast, the keel cants to windward. No engines. Okay, let's go with the crew list for Turn the Tide on Plastic. Dee Kafari has sailed around the world 6 times in different formats. Brian Thompson has won this race once already, and he is navigating. Martin Stromberg, Liz Wardley, the boat captain, Elodie Matreau, her first go-around, her second go-around, and Lucas Chapman is a newbie, as is the Kiwi Bianca Cook, Annalisa Murphy, medal winner from Ireland for the Olympic Games, Bernardo Freitas, and Bledin Mon, who is an amazing young British sailor, was with the last British America's Cup Challenge in Bermuda. Now on Turn the Tide on Plastic. If we've still got Henry Bombi, just talk to us about the standouts right there, Henry.
Sorry, you just broke up there. I heard you going through the crew list.
Just talk to us about the new crew on board, and just wrap up for us. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, no, we're just seeing them heading out now and into the fog. It's going to be a super interesting first 24 hours, so keep an eye on the tracker. The front that's passing is only 5-6 hours behind the fleet here, so if the front comes a little early, then you'll see the boats having to head north ready for the next depression. If the front and the trough that follows it is a little later, they might push a bit further south. So it's going to potentially be the leg where we see the biggest splits north to south over the Atlantic. So I think it's going to be, you know, the next 24, 48 hours will be a real key moment where the navigators will have to decide on where they're going.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that summary of some of the navigational challenges upcoming. Navigators sharpening their pencils and deciding on all of the different options. And Henry's done a good job of just summarising some of those issues for us. Okay, next up, just there, Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. They are in 6th place right now. David Witt, the skipper. And as we get further and further out, the fog is coming down. Team Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, David Witt, he's right there. There's the skipper, Libby Greenhouse. Sally, she's done an amazing job. A quick word about her.
Yeah, Libby's really, you know, such a strong navigator. Her real background is meteorologist, you know, for Team GBR, and she, yeah, really comes to read the weather and really help Whitty with big decisions about where to go.
Yeah. Okay, the fog is closing in, and this is going to be very challenging for all the crews, and there comes a point where we can't get live pictures from them anymore. We're going to switch to the rather addictive tracker. I can highly recommend it over the next, well, they've got some of the routing giving them 8 days, 7 hours, 41 minutes, and 13 seconds was the latest info I got. That's only if you're the winner, though. Those behind will stack in right behind them. On board Team Brunel, those are some of the final pictures that we're getting from them. The last turning marks now, just keeping them safely off all of the rocks. Let's take... Let's take the Newport from Newport. Here we go with the weather. It's actually upwind right now. So they passed the Nantucket Shoals. That's just the north of the line there. Treacherous conditions between those two exclusion zones. Those are for commercial traffic. Then it is 068 degrees up along the Labrador, past Nova Scotia to Labrador. It starts to get pretty cold here, and there is an exclusion zone for ice, and there's plenty of ice up there in the north that has broken off. These depressions you can see there where the wind direction changes and squeezes. The lighter colors less breeze, darker colors more breeze, as you see heading north. Plenty of breeze there. They're looking at 25 to 30 at certain points. Then leave Ireland to port the famous Fastnet Rock, and it's into Cardiff for a tidal and for a tidal thing. Okay, Sally, just give us final thoughts. So we've got actually we've got skipper's thoughts. Let's hear from them directly about exactly what's coming up over this transatlantic double points leg.
Leg 9's a complicated one. Double points from Newport, Rhode Island to Cardiff in the UK. And it's about 3,000 miles. I'm sure it'll be just as close as the rest.
And will be a double point leg again within the Volvo Ocean Race.
It's double points, but it's pretty short and intense. It's 3,000 miles, and you could ride a big weather system, and it could be feeling like a Southern Ocean leg.
It can be as cold, as dangerous, as windy as the Southern Ocean.
You know, everyone always speaks about the Southern Ocean, and I understand that because it's far away from land and everything, but maybe I'm a bit subjective as a North European, but I think the North Atlantic is by far probably the most dangerous sea to cross.
It's going to be a fast one, and what makes it dangerous is we are not in the south, so if there is 40 knots of wind, we are going to push as much as we can. We are not going to furl the sail and say, okay, let's wait, let's preserve the boat before we pass Cape Horn. No.
Well, the Atlantic can bite, and I think I have to go back to 2006. Maybe everybody remembers the movie star story. Yeah, the boat sunk on that leg. So it's just one of these things. It can happen, and what I said, if the conditions are bad, bad things can happen.
And the actual finish is the approaches are full of traffic separation schemes. The UK coastal area is pretty tough. It's got rocks, it's got fishing boats, it's got commercial traffic. The Bristol Channel itself has like 8 knots of tide. It's got a lot of shallows in it, a lot of fast running water, and the finish is going to be a really restricted area of where we can actually sail.
Everybody has to push much more than we have done, and everybody is going to do it because no choice.
Well, there we go. All the boats now heading back in. Beautiful picture of Fort Adams. We were hoping to follow the fleet a little further, but the fog has come in. Sally, final thoughts?
Final thoughts, you know, we obviously wish all the teams such a safe journey across, and keeping an eye on the tracker, it's going to be a close one. Pretty excited to see the outcome and see what points we're dealing with once we get into Cardiff after this double points leg.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much to Sally Barkow. Always wonderful here in the commentary booth. Thanks for the insight from Kenny Reid and Henry Bombi down on the water. And Newport really turned it on. The sunshine came out, the fog lifted for a banner day here in Newport, Rhode Island. Wonderful sailing, and we got in some great racing as well before the boats leave for Cardiff. You can follow all the action at Volvo Ocean Race on Facebook. Like, share, comment, tell us where you're watching from. All the brilliant pictures on Instagram at Volvo Ocean Race, hashtag Life at the Extreme. And in more depth at Volvo Ocean Race on Twitter. And for the Uber geek and the sailing fan at Race Experts. And then back at our headquarters in Alicante, we've got the quick fix first thing in the morning and the daily show with our host, Niall Myant-Best.
A great start to the leg. Now it's the turn of the Daily Show team. We're going to be based here in race headquarters in Alicante. The rest of the crew flying over from Newport in the next few hours, and they're going to be joining me in this room here. This is Race Control. This is where we monitor all the moves out on the water, the boats, all the winning, all the losing, the miles gained and lost. And every morning we're going to have our quick fix for you. Then at 1300 UTC, we've got our Daily Show bringing you all the analysis and interviews. Join us as leg 9 gets underway.
The leaders are starting to sniff victory, but first they have one final ocean to cross for a thrilling double points crucial sprint across the Atlantic for leg 9. It's See You From America. We're back to Europe for the finale and a return to the UK for the first time in 12 years to Cardiff in Wales.